Today is my first official, public engagement since my dad's passing. I'm gonna speak as my father's son, but an alumni from Melbourne University. From 1990 to 1994, I did law arts, and I just left Melbourne 30 years ago. First, I headed up to Sydney to do my articles. The Australian Lawyers for Refugees Inc., an NGO here, sent me for a summer internship in Hong Kong when I was in my third year of law school. And then when Hong Kong was returned to China, then I moved to the Philippines. Because the Philippines was the only Southeast Asian nations that allowed for some 3,000 Vietnamese refugees who were stateless to remain behind. My dad was a lucky one. He was in the camp for only 3 months. But by 1997, some refugees had to stay in the camps for over 10 years. And in the Philippines, it was 16 years. I think all my dad wanted was for me and all my siblings to pay forward. As luck would have it, we got to resettle all the remaining Vietnamese refugees in the Philippines and in Thailand. And as a result, we were able to close the last chapter of the Vietnamese boat people. I went to England and I did my master's. And that's also where I met the future king of Butan. And I tell you this because everything will come full circle if you are confident, you're authentic, and you pay forward. I went to Butan for my honeymoon in 2004. I went there for his coronation in 2008. I went there for his wedding in 2012. Throughout that time, I was the executive director of Voice. But then I quit in 2019. I have a 13-year-old son. I thought, okay, my first task now is to be a responsible father, not to be a responsible citizen anymore. During the pandemic, I saw on the TV screen Afghans fleeing Kabul. Suddenly the images of Saigon of 75 came up. So I got together with 4 other friends of mine who are Vietnamese, and we sponsored 2 Afghan families. The first 2 Afghan families that arrived in Orange County were sponsored by Vietnamese refugees. Each of us has our own power. If the son of a refugee can do it, surely you can do it. Then I went to Butan with my partner, and where I met the king. This was last August. I said, hey, Oi, I've got this special project. Butan is just different than the rest of us. They don't use GDP. They use this thing called the gross national happiness. But because of that, Butan is also losing its own people. Last year, 60,000 Bhutanese, the young and the able, left the country for better shores here in Australia. Because we are well known for our education. As a result, he has carved out a big chunk of his country. It's 1,000 square kilometers in a place called Gelefu. And he has asked me to be his spokesperson. It is an honor, but it is also a challenge, where he wants to build and run a fair, sustainable, equitable, and most importantly, mindful city. My dad came here, and this to him represented the best for him. But for our generation and for your generation, maybe we can even do better. Our sense of existence and living should not be based on just the GDP alone. It should be also on our gross personal happiness. And because personal happiness is so individual, each of us will have to find our own way, right? And it changes over time. Vietnamese and Chinese will have this saying: when you're in your 30s, you want to settle down. When you're in your 40s, you know exactly what you want to do. But when you're in your 50s, you know what God's plan is for you. Ngũ thập nhi, tri thiên mệnh. I share the same German philosopher with my dad, Goethe. For me, it's this line: whatever you think you can do, or dream you can do, begin it. Boldness has power, magic, and genius in it. Begin it now. And so I hope that if any of you want to know more about either Butan, or about refugees, or about civil society, or teaching in general, let me know. Because my dad was my greatest teacher. Thank you. I want to...
That surprised you.
So much on that.